The octopus is a mysterious and beautiful creature. It's also an intelligent creature that can recognize individual human faces, form relationships with humans, and so much more. Cy Montgomery has interacted with and studied octopuses for many years. Stay tuned, I'll talk with Cy Montgomery about Secrets of the Octopus. Hi, I'm Dan Skinner, and this is Some Books Considered. Cy Montgomery is an award-winning and best-selling author of 38 books for adults and children. Her books focus on animals, science, and conservation. Her previous books include the New York Times best-selling The Soul of an Octopus and the recent Of Time and Turtles. She joins us to talk about Secrets of the Octopus from National Geographic. Cy, welcome to Some Books Considered.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Well, tell us a little bit about your interest in octopuses. When did you first become fascinated with them?
Well, the first time I actually met an octopus was March of 2011. And my now good friend Scott Dowd at New England Aquarium lifted the lid on the tank belonging to their resident giant Pacific octopus, Athena. And Athena probably weighed about 40 pounds. Each of her 8 arms was probably 4 feet long. And to my surprise, as soon as he lifted the lid, this animal peeked out from her lair. I saw her eyes swivel in its socket to lock onto mine, and she came flowing out of her lair, turned bright red with excitement. And soon her arms were boiling up out of the water to latch onto my skin with her beautiful white questing suckers. And an octopus can taste with all of its skin, sort of like our tongues, but it's most exquisitely developed in the suckers. And I realized later that not everybody would have liked this because octopuses are big and they're slimy and it was cold, and octopuses have been portrayed in Western literature for centuries as monsters. But man, I was so excited because clearly this individual animal was just as curious about me as I was about her. And that kind of began the quest that resulted first in 2015 in this surprise international bestseller, The Soul of an Octopus, and then later resulted in National Geographic calling me and asking me to write the companion book to its TV series, Secrets of the Octopus. And that allowed me to take another deep dive into octopus research and find out that many of the questions that I was asking as I developed my relationships with individual octopuses back in 2011, 2012, 2013, all the way through, some of these questions are being answered. And the research going on right now, we are in the golden age of octopus research. It is such a thrilling time to be alive and learn what these animals are teaching us.
Well, there's a lot I want to follow up on what you just mentioned. And one of them, you were talking about building this relationship with the octopus. And you write in the book that octopuses like some people and don't like other people. And tell us more about that. You had a particular experience with a friend of yours where they didn't like her.
Well, it was very funny, and because this friend of mine, and she's actually my best friend, she's 93 now, and she has, studied all kinds of animals all over the world, and she's a lovely person, but she's a smoker. And nicotine is in your blood even when you are not smoking. It's not just on your skin. And whenever we touch an octopus, we always wash our hands to make sure there's nothing icky that's going to bum out the octopus or make sick. And she'd washed her hands. But I put my hand into the tank and the octopus came up and was all over me. And then I introduced Liz. And Liz kind of held out one finger kind of hesitantly. And then the octopus stretched out her arm kind of hesitantly. And I thought it was going to be like the Sistine Chapel, with but no, they touched each other and they both went, ew, they withdrew. And I think that the reason the octopus didn't like Liz was she did not like the taste of nicotine, which most invertebrate animals don't like. Smokers may notice that they are bitten by mosquitoes less frequently than people who don't smoke, and that's because nicotine actually repels a lot of invertebrates, and I think that's why they kind of repelled each other. And why Liz was repelled, I think she might not have been ready, to touch someone who was kind of cold and slimy, but that never, that never puts me off.
I want to learn more about what scientists are learning these days, especially about what octopuses are capable of. You write that they can recognize a human face and remember that human face. And tell us more about what we're learning about how they can not only relate with humans, but what we're learning about how they relate in sort of their social life and their organizational structure, among other octopuses.
Well, I was always kind of amazed that any octopus would want to be friends with me. Because after all, we last shared a common ancestor 500 million years ago when everyone was a tube. Why would someone as beautiful as Athena or as smart as Octavia or playful as Kali and the other individual octopuses I got to know, why would they want to have anything to do with me at all? And I really wasn't sure. But it appears now that octopuses, and as you know, there's hundreds of species. They were all thought, with very few exceptions, to be solitary animals. But now we're discovering that many species are social or can be social. So just like some people live in rural areas, other people live in cities, there have been octopus cities discovered. In Australia, there's 2 sites where a species called the gloomy octopus, Octopus tetricus, he's not gloomy, he just has big expressive eyes, but where gloomy octopuses, who are normally solitary in other areas, they live in such packed aggregations that the researchers are calling it Octopolis or Octatlantis. And they seem to be able to get along with their neighbors, sometimes well, sometimes not. They've discovered that sometimes neighbors have disputes. And these octopuses will sometimes get so annoyed at their neighbors that they'll chuck stuff at them. They'll pick up a bunch of shells and throw them at them. And Peter Godfrey Smith and David Scheel have done that astonishing research. But other researchers have discovered octopuses living in aggregations as well. Octopuses also who will mate beak to beak, which is very kind of scary because octopuses were thought to be so cannibalistic that a lot of times the dinner date ends up being a real dinner date. So these things are just blowing people's minds because octopuses are not the way we imagine them. They are not these horrible, dangerous monsters. They are mollusks related to clams and snails, animals who we don't think of as very smart. Clams don't even have a brain, yet they're capable of incredible intelligence, and they are far more social than we ever thought.
I'm talking with Sy Montgomery about Secrets of the Octopus, and our conversation continues in a moment. If you're enjoying this discussion, please take a moment to subscribe, like, and click on the bell so you'll know when I post new interviews with authors. And thank you. Speaking of brains, tell us about the octopus brain, because as I understand, it's not centrally located, it's sort of distributed.
Oh my gosh, it is. I mean, you wouldn't even know this is a brain. I mean, some people say it's as if they have 9 brains. So they do have a central brain. Does not look like our brain. It is a donut. It's a ring around their throat. That's their central brain. But in addition to this, most of their neurons actually are located in their arms. So their arms can do stuff independent of the central brain. And this makes for very quick reactions, because if you don't have to think about it, should I really get away from this shark? While you're debating that, it's good to, have a response that's quicker than your central brain can process it. And their arms can even do stuff. If, someone comes along and bites off your arm can go off and still do stuff by itself, which is kind of creepy and kind of amazing. but to have your arms each have a mind of its own, I really wonder, what does that feel like?
It's hard to imagine. There are so many other things that an octopus can do that are just unique to their species. The way they can change colors, the way they can even change their genetics, which is a fascinating idea. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, this was recently discovered. They can edit their own RNA. And DNA and RNA code for the proteins that make our bodies work. They can edit their own genetic code, like during their lifetime. This is amazing. So they are remarkably adaptable in all kinds of circumstances. And there are octopuses who will come out of the water, for example. And they don't want to stay out of water very long. I mean, after about a half an hour, they're going to dry up. But can you imagine somebody who is at home out of the water and in the water? Very, very few animals can do this. But very few animals are presented with all the challenges that every octopus species is. They are, as we mentioned earlier, mollusks, and most mollusks have shells to protect them. But they have no shell. And this freed them up to hunt all different kinds of species. They will eat birds. They will eat mammals. They will eat sharks if they can. They will eat little tiny things. They can drill open the shells of clams. They can eat a lot. But at the same time, everyone eats them. They hatch out of an egg like the size of a grain of rice. And so at first, baby octopuses are part of the plankton. Anyone can eat them. Filter feeders can eat them. As they get bigger, fish can eat them, and whales can eat them, and sharks, who are, of course, fish, can eat them. So they have to be able to cope with finding all kinds of prey, not just one thing. They can't just specialize in, all I'm going to open is clams, and that's all I have to do. And they also have to defend themselves against all of these different predators that might be birds diving from the sky to eat them, predators who might be mammals, not just whales, but things like otters, for example. And they have to outwit every one of the animals that eat them and that they eat.
So what are some of the skills they use to defend themselves? I know one of them is that they can insert themselves in the very small areas that a different type of creature would not be able to.
Yes, they can just pour themselves into, because they have no bones, into a tiny opening. They melt into an area like, butter on an English muffin. They can also match their background so exactly that they are invisible. But in addition to this, they can make themselves look like something that isn't an octopus. So there's one called the mimic octopus, who can instantly transform itself into what looks exactly like a poisonous flatfish that a predator might not want to eat. And if that doesn't work, they can change into this other like spiny fish that no one wants to eat. And if that doesn't work, they can hold their arms up so that they look like venomous sea snakes. There are octopuses who can confuse both their prey and their predators into thinking that a cloud is passing overhead. They will mimic the weather. They can also jet away using the jet at the side of their head. They can shoot out a cloud of ink, which rather than really a cloud like the Batmobile would shoot out, what they shoot out is a blob, really. It's called a pseudomorph. And I have been inked, and I was amazed when it was a red octopus and it was in a tank. And we were both kind of thinking like, ooh, we better detach because they're very venomous. All octopuses are venomous. This pseudomorph hangs in the water and looks exactly like an octopus. It even has legs like an octopus. And their ink is chemically so complex that it may hypnotize their prey into thinking or their predator into thinking that they've already eaten, which is amazing. And they can bite. every octopus has some kind of venom. Not all of it is dangerous to humans, but there are octopuses whose venom is absolutely deadly to humans. And happily, these blue ring octopuses generously flash those blue rings to show us, guess what? I am really venomous. You better not mess with me. So pay attention to what your octopus is telling you.
You mentioned earlier that, we used to just think of these mysterious creatures as monsters. We didn't know much about them. Why do you think there's so much interest in octopuses now?
Well, I can just notice simultaneously, pretty much after, 2015. 2015 was when Soul of an Octopus came out. And I am not crediting myself for this, but there was some zeitgeist going on, because before 2015, all my friends were always on the lookout for like some mug with an octopus on it or some news item with octopuses on it. You couldn't find anything. If you got an octopus with a mug, you were like, wow, this is so cool. Well, now you can outfit your entire house from your bathroom to your chandelier with octopus stuff. And there's new octopus research coming out and getting press, getting excited press, like every few weeks. They're finding new species. They're discovering new behaviors. It's absolutely amazing. And I don't credit my book for this, but I would be happy to credit the octopuses who I met for being so inspiring and for the creation of an octopus fan club called Octonation. And I'm wearing an Octonation t-shirt right now. This fan club, which was created by Warren Carlyle, who contributed all of the octo profiles at the end of the book Secrets of the Octopus, their content is viewed by 500 million people every year. So people are out there. The octopus has been transformed from a monster to a superhero. And I am so thrilled to be able to witness this.
To learn more, the book from National Geographic is Secrets of the Octopus by Sy Montgomery. Sy, thank you for talking with me today.
Oh, such a pleasure to be with you today. Thanks.
If you'd like to purchase Secrets of the Octopus, I've placed a link for you in the description below. And if you'd like to see more videos about books and their authors on a wide variety of topics, be sure to subscribe, like, and click on the bell to be notified about future programs. I'm Dan Skinner. Thank you for watching this edition of Some Books Considered.